couple of names that I will bring to your attention or refamiliarize some of you all with. One would be, you mentioned the great queens of Africa, Queen T, or Ty, how you pronounce it, T-Y-E. She was such a great politician that it said that it was the Romans who studied her technique that actually led to the foundation of Western democracy. Phyllis Wheatley was a heralded poet whose literary works were so impressive that George Washington had her specifically read her poetry and serve under him during his time commanding the Revolutionary War and so on and so forth. We have had a number of individuals like that to being significant as part of our world history, part of our national history, part of our excuse me, lifestyle in general that have fallen by the wayside as other information individuals have come to the forefront. Now, I can tell you personally, and I'm sure just about everybody can relate to this, my first instance and realization of the term Black Power came when I was very little. There were 4 words that always put a fear into the heart of me or any of my friends or my siblings, and that was go get a switch. But we have to understand that different times, different generations, different situations. We want to think about the significance not only of the gender role in regards to our history, but also to think about the significance of our history for the most part. And my next question I'd like to ask to this panel would be, and I'll start off by answering myself, first of all, is when did you first realize you were black? Now, I was born and raised in a small town in West Kentucky, Madisonville, and when I started in the school system, it was integrated. So I went to an all-black school for my first, from kindergarten up to 3rd grade. The state of Kentucky decided to integrate in 1964, and so my first year going to a school with white kids happened that particular year, and it basically brought a change in terms of my way of thinking and how I saw myself. So again, starting with panels on my right this time, when did you first realize you were black?
Oh, I was born realizing I was black. I mean, my parents, after I was born, moved to Los Angeles to join the Black Panther Party, so that's where my brother was born. So it's not as if it was some realization in kindergarten or 1st grade or something like that. I was born into it. I was born to very pro-black parents who named me after a prison. I was born a few months after the uprisings at Attica State Prison, so I didn't have much choice but to come out the womb knowing that I was black.
My story isn't nearly so dramatic. I was born and raised in Philadelphia. I call myself a city boy with country roots. My mother was born in Alabama. My dad was born in Virginia. They met in Philadelphia, got married. So it was routine for us to travel, even though we lived in Philadelphia. Every year we traveled down south to visit the family. Every year the grandmothers came up north to visit us. So it was weird. It was never, I didn't have any revelation or any nirvana moment. It was just it. And it's interesting, my father quit school when he was young. His father died when my father was young. My father quit school in Virginia to help support his family. As I was growing up, my father was a laborer. He was an industrial painter. Those are people that paint schools, libraries, things of that nature. But he left for work every day in a suit. And that's also how he came back. So that's how I was raised to carry myself. Better, no worse than anybody else, but you definitely are no less than anybody else. My father since went back to school, and I graduated from high school the same week he graduated with his master's degree in special education. Interesting thing about that and the values of our country, he made less money with a master's degree in special education than he did as an industrial painter and a contractor. But that was what he wanted to do. So the importance of education and making your own decisions and not being driven by a dollar has been instilled in me my whole life. So again, I wasn't called out of my name. I didn't see a movie. I didn't have an encounter with the police. I've had family members who were actually in the bloody Sunday March in Selma that are still alive. So, I have some understanding of that. So I guess similar to Abdul, it's been all day, every day.
Let me see, just like I think somebody mentioned, it had happened quite a few times. I don't think I noticed it because it didn't mean anything. It didn't matter, or I didn't notice it, I guess. And and so years down the road, what really sunk in, and I was thinking about that when you asked that question, I was in high school, and we got off the bus, and we were headed to this white high school. We had integrated, and they were doing integration, and one to junior high school, or one to senior high school had integrated with West Memphis Senior High School, and when we got over there and everything, this is the beginning of school, about a week later, I believe, and we got off the bus and walked near I believe it was the cafeteria, the large building facing out with a big white wall on it toward the street up from Broadway. And it said, "Go home, niggers, we don't want you here." And that was my first experience with a whole bunch of other people that was standing there looking, and I think I remember hearing a array of "You go to hell." And after that, we of course went into classroom like nothing had happened, and class went on, and you were a little bit tentative. But when we got outside again, they had washed the wall down, and the writing was gone, and you was going about your business. But that left an imprint, and that's when I first remember when somebody wrote it down. When I heard people say "nigger this" or "nigger that," or it wasn't somehow pertaining to me, even though I heard it and saw the what you talking. But when they wrote that, somehow that had more of a meaning. So that's when I first realized that I was different. I don't know if I thought black more than anything else, but the word "nigger," I didn't think I was that.
When was I realized that I was black? My mother always brought that to the forefront. My mother, Willana Winburn Baldwin, was known in the neighborhood as a historian, and she loved music, and I love music. So anytime I would hear music on the radio, whether it was Pat Boone or Elvis Presley, my mother would always say, "That song was stolen. Little Richard sang that first." So she always kept me aware of black music and its evolution. Now, let's go maybe 20 years later. When was I reminded that I was black? When I was sitting in a customer service position, helping a customer get something done for their benefit, and I was told not to touch him. And he was a young skinhead, what they call skinhead, racist. And I was helping that individual get something they needed. That's when I was reminded that I was black.
Let's see, I was born and raised in small town Alabama. And I think it was just natural to be in a black community. But inside that community was a comfort zone. It's like being in your mother's womb. So you felt safe and everything. And as children, we had to walk downtown. Well, when I realized that it made a difference, because I guess I'm the elder on the family, the black, white, colored signs, bus stations, train depot, all that good stuff, this was clearly marked. But as a child, you don't really care much about it because you are inside this comfort zone. And this is where your parents protect you at. Now, I remember we had to walk downtown, and I used to like to whistle as a young boy. And we get to a certain street, my mother stopped whistling. Now, it wasn't no ask you to or nothing, this was a demand right now. We going downtown, head back, get to that street, okay, you whistle again. You know what I'm saying? So the entire neighborhood, our community was black, but the children inside that community felt protected. Now, school integration didn't come to my area until I was getting ready to graduate high school. Unfortunately for me, it killed my chances of going to a HBCU because the college in that area was cheaper. And my old man opted for the money. So, and then when I got to the campus of this all-white, just integrating university, it was obvious that I'm in the wrong place. It's just not gonna work. So, that's, and I was fortunate enough to be the last of a large family. And so there's some fringe benefits going to go with that position. You know what I'm saying? And I still benefit from that. You know what I'm saying? So being black to me, I say I was raised in slavery because my brother-in-law brought home books. And really it was that Mandingo series of books about the slave breeding plantation. And I read them all. When he worked at the college, so some kids would throw them away, he'd bring them home. And I read them all as a juvenile. And I was just raised in slavery. So I knew about black and white, and my whole life experience, that's the way I view the world. That's the way I see it. And I always have seen it like that. As I, got caught up in the Great Migration, headed north, went into the workforce, all that good stuff, retired from a job. But then I saw black and white every day. It didn't come directly to me. I guess it was just attitude. We understood each other. Y'all won't do me and I ain't gonna do y'all. You like that,
Yes. I resonate with a couple of things you said, Mr. Shaw. First about Black History Month. I sort of have this love-hate relationship, I guess. I'm glad that we emphasize it, but why does it have to be, just 1 month out of the year? I've got a friend, oh, he's not in here. I've got a friend who was designing a series of programs for an organization, and I suggested a black man to do a program. He said, "Oh yeah, let's have him during Black History Month." Well, why do that? Why relegate him to 1 month out of the year? So maybe one day we'll get to the point that we don't have to have Black History Month. I don't think that'll ever happen, but the hope. The other thing you said, you were talking about women being invisible. One of the crucial books I read, I guess I was in college because my high school would never have allowed me to read Black Like Me, Ralph Allison's book. They would never have had that. But anyway, maybe we need a female to write about the invisible black female.
Read some Toni Morrison, some bell hooks, you'll definitely, Alice Walker, yes.
Okay.
That's interesting that you say that. I had some friends that when I was in the military, these were some of the strangest white people. And the strangest thing about them was they didn't have any problem with black people. I mean, laugh, talk, go out, eat together, play ball together. They were through that. You get what I'm saying? It was so strange. And then you could go over here and step over the line this way, and this person over here was still in the shell, in the embryonic stage. They couldn't break through. It's like they were stuck. And this person over here was like night and day. And you forget this person was black, i.e. that thing about the color line where there is no color, because this person could feel you and you could feel this person, and that was it. Color never seemed to fit it out anywhere, you know. So I don't know. Maybe America could be like that. I doubt it. I doubt it because so many people want America to be like it is, and I guess the reason for it goes back to the thing what he was saying earlier. It's more profitable when everything is fidgety, filled with racism, anger, frustration, you know. So, and then people, i.e. the political system now, people, you know, they mirror what they are. They come out, you know, they come out and they're what they are. So, I don't know. But going back to the invisible thing, the invisible woman that you were talking about, and she's right, Toni Marcy has written for years about that sort of invisibility and talking about the problems that blacks have with themselves versus the overall covering of society. A recently written book, God Help the Child, is about the same thing, the invisible young woman who finds herself, but then in the end, loses herself, and then in the end, finds herself, and then fades away. Just like it.
I want to address something about the stereotype also that I've heard throughout my life about black women being controlling, demanding.
Yeah.
Yes, we can be, but we can also support. When I need to lead, I can lead. When I need to support, I can support. We are not all the same. So let's look at this stereotype and move it along. We are not controlling, loud, demanding, but we need to be what we need to be to support our families and our society.
I want to address the love-hate thing. I had a very interesting conversation yesterday with a white pastor who just walked up to me. We have a good relationship. And he said, how do you feel about Black Lives Matter? Shouldn't all lives matter? So I'll cut through the bulk of the conversation. And I told him, I said, you're right, all lives should matter. But I just asked you a question. Would you ever have thought to say anything about all lives mattering if it hadn't started with Black Lives Matter? What Attica said in her opening remarks about the word black and how it puts people on edge, I've noticed that for years. It's interesting how color doesn't matter after a different color is put on it. If color didn't matter, then it wouldn't bother you for it to be black. The history of this country was the way people have come here. You saw on the East Coast, and even here, in Louisville, there's a Germantown, but there have always been Polish American clubs and German American clubs, and all of that has been fine, and it's been heritage, and nobody had a problem with it. But then, if you take any of those color things, whatever it is, and put black on it, then all of a sudden, it's a different discussion. So sometimes the issue isn't the answer. The issue is why are you asking the question? And I don't mean you and your question. I'm talking about in the broader conversation. And as a Christian, you know, you wanna have some interesting discussion with some lifelong Christians. Say something about a black Jesus.
Right.
And don't even worry about going to the scripture and reading the descriptions and you want to have an interesting conversation on Sunday.
I know you're right.
A long time, maybe 40 years ago, I was talking with a fella, a friend of my brother-in-law, and he was one of the most vile, prejudicial people I had ever met, and it was around the time of busing in Louisville, I believe, and he was going on and on and on and on. And when he found out how religious I was, he stopped in mid-sentence and started talking about the book of Revelation. You know, it's like religion doesn't have anything to do with prejudice. Religion is about the Bible, etc. You know what I mean? It was amazing. Yeah.
I'd like to touch on where you talked about the negative stigma of being a black woman, that it's always thought that we have an attitude or that we're controlling. How do we, I guess, as a community, combat that? And then just kind of piggybacking on what you said that you feel like that black women don't feel like the men can provide what the black women need to, in some instances, lead a battle or lead a home. Is some of that negative stigma of being a black woman really more so having to do with the relationship between man and woman, and then we're bringing it to the forefront and also damaging whatever movement or whatever community building that we're trying to do? Can you touch on that?
The separation of the black male and the black female is historical. If you look back at slavery, the black male had a role and the female had a role. And the role that each played was based on one thing, and that was an economic role, to breed, and then her abundance would be used to breed, and then to carry on what was the building of America, the foundation of America. The usage of things like that say, okay, well, when history has been played out, 3 centuries, you're talking about history being played out, and then after that right there, another 99 years of legal segregation, where those same stereotypes, reared their head, and you're talking about maybe 40 years removed from just having the voting right, the right to vote. Now, what does that have to do with the relationship between black men and black women? What that has to do, unless of course it's been cemented, there never was a relationship between black men and black women for nearly 4 centuries. The relationship was one that was an economic relationship, or a physical one that led to an economic abundance for whoever owned the chattel property. Chattel property. So what you're looking at now is you're looking at America, for instance. I was talking to somebody, they said, well, why do black people always kill and act like they don't like each other? Well, when you had that created, you have these large population centers that were created in America in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and even in the 80s and the 90s. The large population centers mean you cannot go anywhere outside of your population. Like somebody was talking about inside of his own area. Inside those areas, you have killers, murderers, everything else. But it's a larger area versus in a white area where people can go out and go into a better area, and the law won't restrict them. But you were restricted by law, and you had to be in your area. So there's never been a relationship between black men and black women. Now we're learning how to do that relationship between black men and black women. This may sound kind of warped, but in the black community alone, it's my understanding that more than 50%, 60%, maybe even 70% of all black households are headed by a black female. Now that says something about relationship as in, I'm a black female and I've got 1 kid, 2 kids, 3 kids, 4 kids, but I don't have a male, and then they may be by multiple males. So I'm saying in the beginning there was never a relationship, and I'm saying 400 years later, maybe even more, there's still not a relationship. But black people, I think black people, and I think black females understand, I think black males understand it, and I think eventually, from what we're seeing, there will be, well, I shouldn't say that, let me put it like this right here. There is a very light feeling of it, probably, 20, 30% maybe, where you have it and you just don't see it because it's so small versus it's so large, and versus all of these problems that go along with single parenting and relationships. If you're a black female, as you know, and you have a couple of kids, it's hard to have a relationship. And then, as the kids grow up and they don't see a relationship, then what would they do? They don't practice a relationship. Practice makes perfect or something like that. You don't have it, and you never had it. But now you get it that you should have it. And so it's a work in progress. Now that's my thoughts on it. Just looking at the percentage of what it is. And you might have something to say about the percentage of black households headed by black women, which is most black households are matriarchal versus patriarchal. So that's my take on it. That's my take on
But
it.
at the end of the day, it's gonna come down to economics inside the household. This is the point. Now, after the Civil War, people say you free. Well, you get free and have nothing to be free with. And it has never changed. And every time you've made progress economically, there's something that happens in your history that you come under attack. And this is physical attack. I'm talking about you die. I mean, they hang you from trees and burn you alive and all kind of stuff that took place. And that causes us to suffer from what George Group called post-traumatic slave syndrome. We still suffer from that every day. And then go back to power. And I like Wade Nobles when he said that power is the ability to define reality and have others accept that definition as their own. And Dr. Clark says it's better than that. Being black and beautiful means absolutely nothing unless you're black and powerful. And this is what our dilemma is right now in this society. That's why you have such thing as a bad school. And it's all over this nation. Bad school here, bad school there, blah, blah, blah. And we know ain't nothing wrong with the school. It's got to be the people who run the school and who set it up that way. And it always is about resources in the school. You have good black teachers, can do everything, but when you have nothing to work with, then the outcome is going to be what you get. And here we are as a group of people, still depending on the people who never given you anything to give you something. And Du Bois tells us in that Negro, that essay he did, the Negro Nation Within a Nation, he says that the majority of white people do not like you. It's real simple. It hasn't changed. And white people with power show you that when they set policy that you have to live by, and it's going to always leave you out of the economic pie.